episode 28 of the Dorton and Doetkott Debate podcast. I'm Lucas Dorton, joined by the man whose fro keeps getting bigger by the day, Nicholas Duckett. Nick, how we doing?
Not too bad, Dorton. I'm quarantining right now because I was next to someone with COVID. You gotta love it.
So that process is what, two weeks now? You gotta wait.
Well, if you actually have it, you're supposed to stay put for 2 weeks. But I just got tested, and you're supposed to, stay home till the results come back, which is like 3 to 4 days. So hopefully that's tomorrow, but we'll see. I feel totally fine. So if I do have it, I'm asymptomatic, but I'm guessing I don't have it.
Well, hopefully, like you were saying, all the sugars and sweets that you eat, maybe you can just fight it off. That'd be ideal.
Oh yeah, there's so much sugar in this body, it just attacks all them viruses and says, "Get out of here."
Now, what would you do if, like, for a week's time, you were not allowed to have any sweets? Could you make it? I don't think you could.
Oh my god, dude! Like, I went like 3 days without candy once, and I was like going through withdrawals. It was bad. Like, dude, I need candy. I need sugar. It's like, I could go a week without it, but I sure as heck would not want to. Like, I don't even feel right. I don't even drive without candy in my car.
So you're addicted.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, I am an addict. I'm a candy addict.
Hey, the first thing that they say to fixing a problem is admitting that you have one. So you're on the right step.
It should be illegal to sell candy at the cash registers because every single store does it, and every single store I go to, I'll buy candy at the register. I'll go to 5 different stores in a day and buy 5 different bags of Skittles. It's not fair.
Well, they just know that Nick Duckett is going to be coming in, so they got to have the candy supply. It's a good way. It's a good business plan to make some more money. I would do it.
Why can't they just hang a bunch of Brussels sprouts on the racks next to the cash register, and I wouldn't be tempted, darn it.
Oh, well, that wouldn't be very smart business then, would it?
No, it would not.
Awesome. But before we get into our news and stuff we have to talk about, I want to give a thanks to the folks who subscribed some more now. We're up to 53 subscribers. So we're up there above the 50 mark. So that's a nice little threshold to be excited about. So thank you to everyone who subscribed to us. Hopefully we can put out good content that you like listening to and you like sharing with people. Make sure you keep sharing it with other people and keep telling other people about it. It's always ideal. We're not going to give out our Twitter handles and stuff now. We'll do that at the end of the show. But wanted to give a thanks to everyone for doing that because it does mean a lot, each subscriber and every time someone watches a video. So we really do appreciate that. So thank you.
I would appreciate some more subscribers that vote for my teams, though, and not yours. So, just saying.
Hey, our fans
out there. Huh?
Our fans have taste. What can I say? They have taste.
Apparently they have bad taste, but I'm just gonna keep calling out our fans. It's the wrong thing to do, but you know what? You better vote for me. My ego is taking a big hit. All right, I'm
good.
Disappointed. Come on, I need some redemption. We got. I don't know. You fans, you should know better.
Well, I think the fans do know better. We have the best fans on the earth because they voted for me all 4 times. So
this is my reverse psychology or whatever it is. I'm gonna call out the fans and then we're gonna get more. It's gonna work, all right?
You know what? Like we said, whatever we got to do to get it, right? Everybody with subscribers. Reverse psychology works, and by all means, Mr. Duckett, go ahead.
I had Wayne Gretzky.
One of my buddies, Brett Wilson, who listened to the podcast, took a listen to it. He actually texted me last night, and he said, I think your team was better, although his had Wayne Gretzky, you had more depth. And I think that's what it came down to.
I had Alexander the Great, conqueror, the Grecian ruler, who's also from Russia and makes a bunch of power play goals.
I don't know I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I guess you don't have very good friends then if they're all voting for me.
You know what I say? Patrick, what you doing voting for Lucas? Should have voted for Marty Brodeur.
Nope. Wrong. Okay. But anyways, I suppose we could get into some sports talk now. So I'm pretty excited for this episode because it's the first time that we are actually going to have sports stuff to talk about, recent sports stuff, not just another list, another one of those types of things. Don't get me wrong. I had a great time doing those lists. I had a lot of fun looking into that and comparing lists.
The guy who won all 4 of them, it's easy to say that.
Oh, like I said, I don't know what to tell you, man. Pick better teams. But anyways, it'll be nice. Hopefully, we don't need to go back to doing all-time lists.
I hope not.
If we have to, that's fine. But I'm hoping now, with sports kind of getting ready to start up here soon, that we won't need to, and that we'll actually have sports stuff to talk about every week.
Yes, it's exciting. Now we still obviously don't really have any MLB games or NBA games to talk about yet, but it looks like for the first time in a while that we're getting close to that, and we will have some things to debate that aren't just past sports things. So yes, I'm excited too. But this is our 28th podcast, and there has yet to be a major league game played since we started. It really sucks. I consider NFL, and NFL is my favorite to watch, but MLB and baseball in general is by far my favorite to discuss. So I mean, it's just we need some MLB baseball, some live baseball to discuss. Darn it.
Because we were able to, when we first started the podcast last year, it was kind of towards the end of the MLB playoffs. So we kind of got a little bit of that. But
I guess, yeah, that's true. We did have the tail end of postseason, so we did have some baseball. My bad, but
but not to the level that we would have liked to be able to have a whole season.
Regular season MLB baseball. Yeah. I mean, I guess we did have a little baseball at the very beginning. That's true.
But we certainly did not go into the podcast starting it then thinking that we were going to have to wait till just about the same amount of time to have more baseball talk.
Right. And heck, I even talk golf if it's Masters or something. We haven't had that either. So
yeah. But anyways, so we will just get right into it here. We're going to start with some Major League Baseball talk. As you can see, Mr. Duck and I both wearing our team jerseys. He's got the Brian Dozier Twins jersey, classic Twins player. I got the purple Trevor Story jersey rocking here. So we are both, as you can tell, pretty excited that baseball is coming back. For no fans, unfortunately, is kind of what I'm hearing, but that's fine. As long as I can watch baseball, I'll deal with it.
And I need to update my my jersey selection. I don't wear the jerseys that often. So I haven't bought one in a while, but I need a new one. I need a current twin, not a Brian Dozier. I need an Eddie Rosario. He's my boy.
Hey, there you go. But anyways, we'll just get right into it here. So, Major League Baseball did announce that baseball will be returning to play 60-game regular season. Anticipated to begin around July 23rd, 24th, one or the other, not entirely for sure on a date there. But essentially, we're going to have a 2-week spring training starting July 1st, is what I heard.
Is it a legit spring training, like what it normally would be?
I think, I don't know if they'll actually be playing games. I didn't really look into it. I'm assuming that they might play some games or do inter-squad stuff. I'm not sure. Maybe it's just like to get everybody back into camps and kind of just get into that routine again. I could see that too.
Yeah, I haven't read up on it, but to me, I mean, everybody's going to be so worried the whole season about tracking the virus and whatnot. It's like I don't see the point of even playing games that don't even matter it just furthers the chance that it's going to ruin the actual meaningful games in the future. So I know it's kind of hard to be ready without playing live. To me, just play inter squad stuff and beforehand. And like I said, that might be the plan. I haven't read up on it much, but yeah, I know they said 2-week spring training. I'm not sure if it's the same as it normally is though or not. We'll
Right.
see.
So essentially, how it's going to be breaking down for the games being played. So it's going to be 40 games versus your division. So if the Minnesota Twins and the AL Central would be playing 10 games against the other 4 teams, and then NL West for myself 10 games against the other 4 teams, and then 20 games versus the opposite leagues, same division. So for the NL West, the Rockies and the NL West would be playing the AL West teams, and AL Central, NL Central, and they'll be playing 4 games against each of those 5 teams in the division. So that is how that's going to be broken down. We're going to make standings predictions of how we feel each team is going to do. So we'll get into that in a minute here. But first, they did come out with some rules that they are going to put in play for the 2020 season. And I'm going to give you a couple of them here. The universal DH is kind of the big one that everyone's been talking about. The other one being a runner starting at second base to begin extra innings. So essentially how that would work is whoever made the last out, and let's say the bottom of the 9th, then that would be that team's runner starting at second base for the bottom of the 10th, is how that would work out. Now, you can have pinch runners and stuff too, so it's not like you're automatically stuck with, if Jason Giambi's at second base, obviously he ain't playing no more. You can replace him with somebody a little bit quicker. Position players pitching, that there's going to be no restrictions on that, which that one's not really huge. The only time you're going to see that if it's a blowout game. So that will be that. And then suspended games. So if weather forces a game to be cut short before the official time, it'll be continued at a later date versus starting from scratch. And another one that I thought was kind of interesting was the wet rag rule. Essentially is that pitchers will be permitted to carry a small wet rag in their back pocket to be used for moisture instead of licking their fingers. They said they will not be able to access the rag while they're on the rubber, and they must clearly wipe the fingers of the pitching hand dry before touching the ball or the rubber. Water is the only substance that will be allowed on the rag. So I think that's kind of silly. I don't know. I think it's kind of dumb, but whatever.
What the heck's the water do for you if you have to dry it off beforehand anyway?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. But welcome to Rob Manfred's baseball, folks. Nothing makes sense these days.
So you got to explain to me this whole thing too, because Manfred essentially just said, I don't care if you guys can't get along. We're having a season, right? Well, I didn't even realize he had the power to do that. If he did, then why didn't he do it 2.5 months ago?
I think it was just one of those things where, and don't quote me on this because I'm not 100% positive. One of those things to where maybe could the players union and the owners try and get something done before Manfred has to step in, and then it kind of got to the point where he was like, screw you guys, we're just gonna do this.
Well, and I think obviously that's what his plan was. He wanted them to work it out before he had to intervene. But 4 months until you intervened? I mean, come on. We could have had 100 games. We could have been playing, now already. It's just, I don't get it. And now these salaries. So are they getting prorated salaries, or how does that all work now?
I didn't look into that either. I'll have to take a look, and I'll get back to you on that. But all crazy. So first, I want to ask you. I'm not really gonna. The only ones I'm really gonna touch on is the universal DH and then the runner at second to begin extra innings. I think those are the only ones that pretty much everyone cares about. I don't know. Unless you like the wet rag rule, then I guess you can do.
They carry in their back pocket?
That's what it said. Yeah.
That's what it said. All game.
So we'll start with the universal DH, I know you are a big fan of the DH.
Oh,
We've
man,
talked
I love
about
it.
this in the past, so I'm sure you're pretty pleased with this rule then.
Love it. Absolutely love it. I seen just a tiny bit of Colin Cowherd the other day. He had Nick Swisher on. That's normally who Fox Sports 1 has for their baseball talk. And, he's an offensive guy, obviously, as he was an offensive player, but he said he loves it. He's like, and he pretty much uttered the words that I always say. He said, I don't know what he said specifically word by word, but he essentially just said, nobody wants to see pitchers. Nobody wants to see pitchers come up with bases loaded and no outs. You want to see runs. You don't want to see pitchers coming up there. I've always said, pitchers make the major leagues to pitch. Hitters make it a hit. You don't want to see a position player on the mound. You don't want to see a hitter or a pitcher in the batter's box. It just doesn't make sense. I mean, it just doesn't. So I'm a huge fan of this universal DH. Now, I'm not exactly sure why they're implementing it. Just because it's 60 games doesn't mean I don't see why you'd have to implement it now, because I don't think this is a permanent thing. But I'm glad they are, because some people think, some of the rule changes that have been made this year might lead to future rule changes, because people might realize, oh, this is a good thing. Well, I hope that's the case with the DH, because I want the universal DH, and I think, honestly, they should have had it a long time ago. But I'll just touch on the second one quick. But
Yeah.
I'm not giving you we can get back to it, but I just want to touch on the second one quick, because if they do decide the DH rule is good and it stays, I'm going to be happy. But the 60-game season, obviously with circumstances, you kind of had to do that. But if this leads to eventually shortening the season in the future, I'm not going to be happy. And I think a lot of people want that, but I personally don't. I mean, maybe it'll make every individual game more important or appealing. I get that. But unless you cut it way down, it's still not going to be that much of a difference anyways. But I'm such a stat head and an analytical guy, and I love records. I don't want to see it shortened a bunch. You'll never see anybody break Bonds' record of 73 in a season, or you'll never see anybody hit 700 home runs again if you're only playing 120 games a year rather than 162. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, a lot of people say, let's bring it below 100 games. Now, I'm with you. I'm not for one to say, let's shorten the year. That's what's great about baseball, is that it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, So you come rough out of the gate right away, you might be able to keep it going, but it's not. I mean, obviously, I'm not saying start slow, because you don't want to start a season slow, because it can very much have implications of how you finish the year. But I truly don't believe that you can see a productive MLB season once you start talking. Like I said, I don't want to shorten the season. I think 162 games is fine. But if you were to lower it, I think the lowest I would go maybe 110, 100 games. I think once you start getting below that mark, then I get it. Maybe it'll bring in more fans, more people want to watch because, there's only, 80 games versus 162, so less chances to watch them would make them want to watch more.
To me, and I know a lot of this is personal opinion, but if I were saying pros and cons, there's way more pros, or there's way more cons to shortening it. A pro would be, yes, every game would essentially be more meaningful. Instead of every game meaning 1/162nd of your season, it could mean 1/100th or 1/81st, however much they shorten it. Well, let's be honest. As long as it's over 60-something, people still aren't going to be tuning in like this in an NFL game. I mean, there's only 16. And I can think of so many cons. One, for people who, like me, are big stat heads and love records, like I already touched on, that would be totally changed because you're not playing 162. Two, MLB postseason, I mean, every sports postseason is awesome, but I think a lot of people who watch MLB postseason don't even watch the MLB regular season because it's just so much different. Everybody loves postseason baseball. And part of that is because it's the best of the best. Now, obviously, every sport, you're going to have the good teams in the playoffs. But baseball, of the 10 teams that make the playoffs, they're almost always the 10 best teams in baseball. Because over 162-game sample size, you're going to be able to make up for bad stretches, right? And it's going to average out where the good teams make it. In football, you only play 16. One of the best teams in football could potentially have, an injury or something, start up 0-4, and they can't climb back up with those 12 games. So sometimes you get teams that might not necessarily be that great end up making the playoffs. So if you shorten it, you're going to get worse teams in the playoffs. People are all worried about, the 60-game season. Oh, if you win it, does it really count? Blah, blah, blah. It's not a full sample size. Well, one, it does because everybody's in the same boat. But two, if you really think that, then why would you want to lessen the games in the future? Because trust me, a lot of people want to do that. And then the other one, what was I going to say about? Oh yeah, baseball. For one, 162 games. Yes, it's a lot, and that's what draws some people away. But also, I love the fact that almost every single night in 6 months, I know there'll be a Twins game on for me to watch. And then part of baseball is the rotation. You have 5 pitchers. That's what makes it so great. It's not one guy can't just bring you a World Series. It's a team effort. If you only play 80 games, you're only going to need like 3 starting pitchers. It would make it way different. It would just change the game up so much. So I would not be a fan.
So now this is my next question to you, and something that I've thought about a lot. Let's say the Twins, they go 40-20 or whatever. Just throwing out.
That's actually what I have them going.
Oh, well, there's spoiler alert then, folks. So let's say Twins go 40-20. They make it to the playoffs. They go all the way. They win the World Series. Okay, best case scenario. Are you, as a Twins fan, do you feel like, okay, sweet, we just won the World Series, like hell yeah, like let's go? Or are you more on the side of, well, we played 60 games, so like is it as meaningful? Like, does it mean the same to you as if you were to play a 162 game season, Twins make the playoffs, win the World Series, versus them playing 60 games, make the playoffs, win the World Series? Are you like, okay, yeah, we won the World Series, but we only played 60 games, and I know if this was like a regular season where we have 162, that a lot of stuff can happen in those 102 games that are left. So how would you feel personally as a Twins fan?
It wouldn't affect me much, to be honest. I mean,
okay.
I kind of touched on it. Like I said, at the end of the day, everybody's in the same boat.
Right.
This may help some people's chances, may hurt others. But at the end of the day, everybody's in the same boat. So, I mean, there's not really much to argue. Now, Twins specifically, I mean, maybe it would make it feel just a little less deserved because in our case, the Twins have the easiest schedule in baseball. That's factually. I can't remember where I seen it, but based on opponent winning percentage from last year, the Twins have the easiest schedule in baseball because of the schedule format now. I mean, it could have been that way to begin with. I'm not really sure who it was. But the Twins now have a very easy schedule compared to other teams because of this whole schedule format. So, yes, they're a little bit this benefits them a little more. So, yeah, it could take away from it a little bit. But at the end of the day, like I said, everybody's in the same boat. And the Twins won 100 games. In the Twins case specifically, they won 100 games last year. So it would be reasonable to expect them to make the playoffs this year, even if they did play 162 games. So, and my last thing. Now, granted, 60 is practically only a third. This is practically only the third of a season, which is a little different than the NBA back in 2010-11 or 11-12, whatever it was. But for instance, the year LeBron won his first championship with the Heat, they only played 66 games that year because that was a lockout season when it started on Christmas. Does anybody mention that? No, because a lot of people probably don't even remember. Because at the end of the day, it's still everybody's in the same boat. It's still anybody's game, and they won fair and square. So, no, it wouldn't have much effect on me at all. I mean, maybe a tiny bit, but not much.
I guess the main point, I should have maybe said this, was would it still feel as valuable versus playing a 162-game season and doing the same thing, I guess is maybe a better wording for it.
I mean, it would feel maybe just a little less valuable, mainly because the Twins' position specifically with the easy schedule, like I mentioned. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's still a World Series fair and square. I mean, some people might look at it as different, but I'd say for the most part, it would be just as valuable. I mean,
okay. Yeah, it's tough for me. I don't know. Like, it'd be like cool, hey, we won the World Series, but also like, okay, there's probably like an asterisk next to it just because like, well, there are still 102 games to be played when we only played against one other division for the whole rest of the season. Like, I look at it this way, like the AL East and the NL East, you know, I think that's going to be a heavyweight battle between those two divisions. I think that's going to be a really tough matchup for any of those teams going against any other team in that division.
Mm-hmm.
But then I look at, kind of like you were saying, the AL Central versus the NL Central. I think the Twins are, out of both of those divisions, I think the Twins are the best team. I don't think it's very close, personally.
Yeah.
I don't think, I don't know who you'd pick in the NL Central. We'll get to that shortly here. But, like, I just feel the gap is a lot, the difficulty level. And that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
Well,
I don't know if I would feel as comfortable being pumped that, oh, hey, Rockies, they won the World Series. They played well against the teams in their division, and then they dominated the AL West. Like, there's still,
well,
a few other divisions left.
and I know what you're saying, and I kind of feel that, like I said, the Twins specifically, and teams in the AL Central and NL Central, you may get that feeling because they definitely are benefiting from this new schedule. However, they don't have the opportunity to play the balanced schedule they normally would either.
Right.
So can you really take that away from them? It's not that they wouldn't have. They didn't have a chance to display that. And all that's really different from this 60-game schedule is the playoff, is the potential playoff pool. If you played 162 as compared to 60, I'd say 7 or 8 of the teams that made it in the 60 games would have. I'd say there'd probably be a difference of like 2 or 3 teams. I think I actually looked last year through 60 games. I think 8 of 10 playoff teams still would have been the same. However, the Nationals, who won the World Series, wouldn't have been in there, so that is a big difference. But it wouldn't be that much difference. And once you get done playing the 60 games, the playoffs is still exactly the same as it normally would, the format. So you still have to beat the best of the best who makes it to the playoffs.
Right.
So,
you got to beat the teams
it's
that
not much of a difference. Like I said, it would maybe take away from it a little bit for those teams in the AL and NL Central, or anybody for that matter, maybe a little bit, but not much. I mean,
Yeah.
Look at it this way: if the Dodgers made it to the World Series this year and lost in Game 7 and lost the World Series for the 3rd time in 4 years, they'd say, "Oh, the Dodgers blew it again," blah blah blah, and they would treat it like any other season. Oh, the Dodgers blew it again, or the Nationals blew it again if they hadn't won it last year. But if they win it in 7 games and finally win it, are you really going to take that away from them because it was only 60 games? You know what I mean? Because I can just about guarantee you the Dodgers lost the World Series again this year in 7 games. Everybody would treat it like the same thing. Oh, they blew it again. They wouldn't be like, oh, they blew it, but it's not like it would have mattered anyways if they won because it's only a 60-game series.
Yeah.
Or a 60-game season.
I just think maybe it's just because, like, the Twins have obviously won a World Series. Granted, it's been a decent amount of time.
29 years. Yeah.
Okay, but who's counting, right? It's been a decent amount of time, but like for myself as a Rockies fan, we haven't won one. So I think maybe for myself, I wouldn't feel as happy about it just because, like, oh, well, we didn't go through the regular grind that it is. It's just something about going through an entire 162 games, going through the grind and all of that, then getting to the playoffs, being the best team, winning the World Series, versus like a team like the Yankees who have won it 27 times. If they win the division, which they're probably going to, let's be honest, and then, they get to the playoffs, win the World Series, okay, they get number 28. Like, I don't know if it means as just because they've won 27 of them before.
You could also make the argument that it's harder to win it this year, though, too. Now, I'm not going to because I don't necessarily think that. I think for the good teams, I think it would be harder to win it this year. For the easier teams, I think it would be easier. But somebody could make the argument that this year is almost, like I said, I'm not going to, but just play devil's advocate. Somebody could make the argument that this year is even more important because in a 60-game sample, almost every team of these 30 has a legit chance because they just got to play good for 2 months. whereas normally not everybody's going to be in there. So essentially, although the league is 30 teams, going into the season, there's probably only about 12 or 13 legit teams you're going to be competing with. Well, this year, it's like you got to watch your back against anybody because, it's not a very big sample size. You just don't know. So you could also make an argument that it would be harder to win it and more important this year. If you wanted to.
Once the World Series is over, if the Rockies win it, I'll let you know how I feel. But
I'm sure we'll both feel pretty good regardless if our teams won it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's that. Let me tell you, if there was ever a season for the Rockies to make the playoffs, this is their season. I kid you not. I don't know. I'm not going to speak on behalf of other teams, but I can tell you as a Rockies fan, we made the playoffs a couple years in a row. Didn't make it last year. But every other season before that we didn't make the playoffs, I'm not joking. April and May, we are one of the hottest teams in baseball. We come out the gate running, and we are doing great. And every single year, June comes, and we just start tanking. So maybe the Rockies, it might benefit them. Maybe they'll go 50-10. Who knows? But
it's like the Mets always start off strong too. The Mets are the same.
But anyway, so we'll go into the standings now that we have. So if you just want to start, I guess, we'll just start AL East. Who'd you get for what was the division placing for the AL East for you?
So I have it exactly the same as how it finished last year. And we did our predictions, for the 162 game season, a while back. And I don't think I changed my AL East order from there. I have Yankees, Rays, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Orioles. Now, sorry, Orioles fans, but I have the Orioles winning 15 games. An entire season, just 15 wins. 15-45. That's a .250 win percentage. But, honestly, when you're playing the Yankees, Rays, Red Sox, Blue Jays 10 times, then you got to play the Braves, Nationals, Mets, Phillies, Marlins 4, and you're the lowly, pitiful Baltimore Orioles, I don't see many wins in your future. But, I have the Yankees going 39-21 and winning that division, and I have the Rays getting a wild card.
I actually have the exact same order. I have Yankees, Rays, Red Sox, Blue Jays, Orioles.
I don't think there's a whole lot of debate with this division.
I think
you could argue Rays over Yankees. That would be easier to do in a 162-game sample because Judge, Stanton, a lot of guys would have missed a lot of time, but now they're pretty much all healthy. Yeah. But besides that, I don't see a lot of mismatch. I don't see a lot of movement in this division. I think this one's pretty easy.
I would agree with you too. Blue Jays and Orioles certainly aren't going to compete. I have the Red Sox maybe finishing around the 500 mark, kind of a 30-30.
I have them 30-30.
Okay, yeah. So
they have no pitching.
They don't.
Sales on Tommy John, but when you got JD, Bogarts, Devers, and you still got Benintendi, they got enough offensive firepower to still be competitive. But they have no pitching.
Obviously, losing Mookie Betts certainly doesn't help much.
They just lost Mookie Betts and essentially Chris Sale, so their best player and their best pitcher. In a year. So.
We'll go to the AL Central now. What'd you have for that?
I have the same order as last year as well, and because now you can call me a homer, but I have the Twins getting the number 1 seed in the AL Central, but it's because of the schedule change. Originally, I had them getting the 3 seed, but considering now they have the easiest win percentage or the easiest schedule in baseball based on last year's opponent's win percentage, I have the Twins going 40-20 and winning the division. And I have the Indians, White Sox, Royals, and Tigers following them. And I have the Indians getting the first wild card.
Okay. I have Twins, Indians, White Sox, Royals, Tigers.
So we're the same there too.
So yeah, so that should be that. Cleveland or the White Sox? See, this is tough for me because Cleveland.
Okay. I thought that's where you're going. I was going to ask you, what are your thoughts on the White Sox? Because I think the White Sox and the Reds are the teams who most improved over the offseason.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, especially with the White Sox, expect big things. And I have them going 33-27, which ain't bad. I just don't think they're quite there yet because they don't have relief pitching. I'm not quite sure how good their starting pitching is going to be, and although they have a very deep lineup, it's not like they necessarily have the Twins, Yankees, or Astros lineup yet. So, what are your thoughts on the White Sox?
I think for me, the White Sox are a year out from being a contender. I think now Lucas Giolito last season, you can make an argument for the first few months of the season. I think he was a lot of people's favorite to win the Cy Young because
he was showing Cy Young stuff. Yeah.
So I still think Cleveland finishes better. I think it might be close, but I think Cleveland finishes better than the White Sox. Now, next season comes around, hopefully we have a full schedule. I think the White Sox are either competing for the division. If not, then they're certainly going to be one of the top 2 wild cards. I feel pretty confident saying that.
I'm in agreement there. I want to touch on the Indians quick. Now,
Yeah.
I'm fairly confident in the Twins because, one, I just genuinely think the Twins are a very solid ball club. And like I said, they have an easy schedule. But I could see the Indians still winning this division. I don't think they're a better team than the Twins. However, if you look at last year, the Twins won that division fairly easily. The Indians got him at August 11th. They retook the lead. But the Twins ended up winning by almost 10 games. But the Indians last year did not lose to the Tigers or Royals. Like, any bad teams, they did not lose to them. They'd sweep them 3 of 3 or 4 of 4. The Twins, they'd win 2 of 3. The reason the Twins finished better was because they could beat the Yankees and the Rays and the Red Sox and the A's at least, or at least hang with them. The Indians didn't do good against those good teams, but they never, ever, ever lost to those bad teams because they have really quality pitching and those teams just couldn't even score off them. So the Indians playing the White Sox, Royals, Tigers, Pirates a bunch this year, they're not going to lose much either because they dominate the bad teams. So the Indians should have a good season ahead of them too, I think.
So are you worried at all? Because like you mentioned, NL Central...
Yes, I could see the Indians winning the division.
You could see them winning the division. Okay. I could too, but I think the Twins...
Now, I still have the Twins ahead just because I think they're the better team. But like I said, the Indians, their one downfall is they just didn't win enough games against the legit good teams. But the best team they're going to be playing is us. But besides us, it's, the Brewers or Cardinals, and they're like maybe the 9th or 10th best teams in baseball. So, I mean, the Indians, I think, are going to be very solid. I think it's going to depend on how we do against them.
So we got the AL West now. Who do you got for that?
So I have the A's winning the division.
Okay.
Then the Astros. Then they have the Rangers and Angels tied, and then the Mariners.
Okay.
I have the Mariners with 17 wins. By the way, I had the Tigers with 17. So I got a lot of really bad teams predicting. I mean, the Mariners are going to be terrible. But I'm high on the Oakland Athletics because I think they have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. They don't even really have like a bona fide legit ace, but they got all sorts of young pitching talent, and they're all really good. They play good defense, and their roster's solid too, or their batting lineup's solid. I mean, this is like their best player is probably like Matt Chapman for the A's.
Yeah, I mean, Simeon, Chris Davis, they're both pretty solid.
Davis struggled last year, but yeah, I mean, the A's don't have anybody who really pops out the charts, but they are probably like the deepest team in baseball next to like the Rays and the Twins and the Dodgers.
They're very deep.
Oh, by the way, and I have the Astros missing out on the playoffs. Now, that was not the plan. And originally, in my original predictions, I had them making it. But considering they're going to be playing, they're in the NL West, or the AL West, which to me is the best division in baseball. And then the NL West might be the worst division in baseball, but it still has the Dodgers and Diamondbacks. And yeah. I think the Astros are going to lose out on the playoff spot because of this schedule change. Whereas I think that's what puts the Indians and the Rays above them. So.
To me, I think this is the toughest division to make a 1-5 for.
5 is the Mariners. 1 through 4.
5 is certainly the Mariners. 4 is the Rangers. I feel pretty confident in that too. But I'm serious. I honestly think Astros, A's, Angels I think any one of those teams have a chance to win the division. Now, I have the Astros winning it. I still think that their team is dang good. Regardless, obviously they lost Garrett Cole. It's a huge loss. But
And they lost the sign stealing abilities.
Yeah, they did lose that too. I think the A's could certainly give them a run for their money. I think the Angels won't be too far behind them. So I have Astros, A's, Angels, Rangers, Mariners. Now, I will tell you this. I would not necessarily be surprised if the Astros don't make the playoffs, just for the fact that, number one, I believe Verlander is coming off of a surgery. Now, I'm not too worried about Verlander. He's been doing
he would
it
have
so
missed
long.
the first 2 weeks probably if the season started on time.
Pretty solid anyways. But do you think, Nick, that the Houston Astros potentially, with all of this, because you certainly know that they are going to get thrown at. There's no hiding behind that. Do you think that could potentially just mentally wear on them going into another game versus another team, knowing that, hey, how many times are we going to get plunked today? And that, therefore hurts their play, so they don't play as well. What do you think about that?
I don't expect it to be much of an issue. I actually think the Astros are benefiting. I think the teams who benefit from this whole 60-game season and schedule change the most are the Twins and Indians because of the bad division, and then the Yankees because they were injured and now they're not. But the Astros benefit a lot too because there's not going to be any people in the stands. They ain't going to get heckled like they would have. These fans would have been all over them all year, but now they don't have to deal with that. And now I don't believe people should be plunking them. That's just not how I am. But let's be honest, a lot of people probably will do it. But considering we're only playing 60 games, I mean, every game is way more important this year. You don't want to just be plunking guys and putting them on base and potentially losing that game because of that when you only have 60 games to play. So it might not happen as much as we think. And I think the team it would have been worst against is the Yankees. Well, the Astros don't even have to play the Yankees in the regular season this year. So I don't think it's going to be much of an issue. I think it could affect the psyche of some players a little bit, but for the most part, I don't think it'll be a big issue, no.
We'll have to see. So we'll move on to the NL now. We'll start with the NL East.
I'm really high on the Braves. The A's and the Braves are the two teams I'm probably the highest on.
Yeah.
Like above average than most. I have the Braves winning that division at 38-22. Then I have the Nationals, Mets, Phillies, and Marlins. And I have the Nationals getting a wild card.
I have the exact same order: Braves, Nats, Mets, Phillies, Marlins. Now remember,
I believe that's how it ended last year too. So
when we did our season predictions a few months back, I had the Atlanta Braves going all the way. I still think they're very capable of doing that.
You had them winning it all?
I had them going all the way. I think I had them going winning in 6 against the Yankees, I think is how I had.
And I think Sam had them losing in the World Series to the Twins.
I'd have to look. But feel pretty confident about that. NL Central, what'd you have for that?
I don't think a lot of people are high on the Brewers, and I totally understand why. But I still think, especially with Christian Yelich there, they're going to be able to win the division. So I have Brewers, Cardinals, Reds, Cubs, Pirates. But I only have the Brewers winning 35 games, which is, I mean, that's actually pretty decent, but it's the least amount of wins of any divisional winner.
I think this is also another tough division. Besides Pittsburgh and Lats, I feel pretty confident in that.
Yes.
It's tough. But at the end of the day, I had Cubs, Reds, Cardinals, Brewers, Pirates for that.
Cubbies, huh?
I do. I just think, that the new manager in there, I think that should change things up a little bit.
Who is the manager, by the way?
Girardi.
Oh, David Ross.
Or David Ross, yeah, not Girardi. Yeah, David Ross. Yeah, Girardi's, he's elsewhere.
Where's Girardi again?
He's with the Phillies now. That's
what I thought. Yeah. That's what I thought.
So okay. David Ross.
And Kapler went to the Giants, right?
Kapler, yeah, he went to the Giants. Yeah. But yeah, so we'll have to see how David Ross does. Players guy, everyone likes him, everyone respects him, so I'm sure, I think that'll be pretty solid. Reds, again, I could see them competing potentially for a wild card spot for sure. So we'll have to see how that goes.
I I think the Reds and White Sox are very similar. I think they're about a year out, but they're both improved a lot. They both have the potential to be really good. The Reds last year didn't allow a lot of runs, and they even added to their pitching. Now they have Bauer a whole season. It's just whether they're going to be able to score enough runs. But I'm not high on the Cubs. I'm just not. I mean, granted, I don't know why, but I've never really been much of a Cubs fan, so maybe I'm a little biased. But I only have them going 29-31. I don't even have them going 500. I just think they're getting older. It's not like they're old, but they're getting older. You know, their pitching's not the same as it once was, and I don't know if they have the star power on offense. I don't know. I just don't see the Cubs doing that great, but we'll see. I mean, they just missed the playoffs for the first time in the last 5 years last year, so there's still obviously a lot of talent on that team. So we'll see.
And then NL West.
I think without a doubt the best team in baseball is the Dodgers. I don't even care about the Yankees. The Dodgers, I think, without a doubt, are the best team in baseball. I have them winning the division. I think it's the most sure thing in baseball this year is the Dodgers winning the division. The Diamondbacks, I think, are the only other team who could even come close to winning that division. And then I have Padres, Rockies, and Giants.
I agree with you. I have the Dodgers first. I have the Diamondbacks second. And then I actually have Rockies, Padres, Giants.
I could definitely see Rockies, Padres being flip-flopped. I think the Rockies are better than they were last year. The bullpen really, really hurt them last year, and it probably will again this year. But I think they're better than what their record was last year. However, I do think the Padres are going to finish better than them.
We had a lot of injuries to our pitchers. Freeland wasn't really 100%. Marquez was off and on. And those are our 1-2 guys. So I think if both of those guys are healthy the full season, we know what they're capable of doing.
Now, I got to ask, do you think the NL West is the worst division in baseball? Because I personally do. It's hard to say that because I think the Dodgers are the best team in baseball. And I think the Diamondbacks are actually going to be pretty decent this year. They were decent last year. Now they have Bumgarner too. But the Giants are pretty bad. Now, it's not like they're Tigers Royals at the bottom of the division bad, but the Giants are bad. The Rockies and Padres aren't that great. And the Diamondbacks are good, but for the second best team in the division, they're not that great. So what's your take? I mean, I know it's your Rockies division. So.
Right. I think it's a very top-heavy division. You know, the Dodgers are extremely solid, best team in baseball for sure. And then you got to look Diamondbacks. I think, you know, they're a playoff contending team. I don't know about division contending. I think potential wild card contending team. And then after that, I think it's a pretty significant drop-off. I think the Rockies will be, and again, it's hard to say because we're only playing 60 games, but I think the Rockies will be better this year than they were last year. Just because guys are going to be healthy. I think this DH thing will help us tremendously. Rockies are a great hitting team, as everyone knows.
Yes.
And now, you know, we get to have, you know, I love Charlie Blackmon. He's my boy. Defensively, he has not been solid these past few years.
That's a very good point. I didn't think much into the whole DH and the NL thing. So it is going to suck for German Marquez, though. He's probably the best hitting pitcher in baseball.
He probably is. But, so we're going to toss. I would probably put Charlie Blackmon at DH, put Daniel Murphy at first base. I'd probably do that. You know, flip-flop those two guys. Obviously, Blackmon not playing first, but I would probably say it's I don't know if it's the worst. I think the bottom half of that AL Central isn't very good either.
The Royals and Tigers both being in that division they're pretty tough. Hard to not pick them, but at the same time, I think the Twins and Indians. I mean, the Indians are much better than the Diamondbacks, I think, and the White Sox are much better than the Padres and Rockies. So I don't know.
I will say the Giants are not good at all. I don't think they're even going to come close to competing. The Padres. A sneaky team. Padres are a sneaky team because they've got solid young pitchers. They've got young talent. I
They've
haven't
got
been high
really
on them in the
good young
past.
pitchers.
I haven't been high on them in the past, but we'll have to see.
They've got really good young pitchers and maybe the best reliever in baseball in Kirby Yates. I just don't know if they have enough hitting. We'll see.
But
Over under wins for the Dodgers. Let's say 40.
over.
Because
They're
I
probably
have them going
50.
50 and 10.
Well, just look at it. They're playing
I hear
Rockies, Padres, Giants. They are not going to compete with the Dodgers. They might lose a game or two to the Diamondbacks. And then you're going up against the AL West. Rangers and Mariners are not good. You know, Astros pretty solid. A's, Angels might give them some issues. I think they'll get above 40 wins. I don't know 50. I was kind of saying that. They might. I
have 41 and 19, which is really good. But to some people, that may seem way low. But trust me, I am higher on the Dodgers than most people. But I don't think people realize how hard it is to win that much in baseball. I mean, maybe. But 52 and 8 is the best 60-game stretch in the history of baseball. Now, I will say, the Dodgers had a 51 and 9 stretch in 2017, I believe it was, the same year the Indians won 20 in a row. They also had like a 1 and 13 stretch, which is just astounding how you can do that good and that bad in the same season, which shows how the 162 games averages things out. But the Dodgers, I mean, 50 and 10, even like 47 and 13. I mean, that's really hard to do. I could see it. I mean, I think they're clearly the best team in baseball.
They're capable of doing it.
They're still playing the A's, the Astros, the Angels, the Rangers 4 times, the Diamondbacks 4 times. I mean, I think it's going to be hard, especially if there's an injury in there. But we'll see. I think clearly they get 40 wins, though. I think they're going to. I think I'd be willing to bet an easy $20 on them having the best record in baseball, definitely.
If they don't get at least 40 wins this season, I don't know. Eat paper or something. I don't know. They don't win 40 games.
I have the Dodgers having the best record in baseball, and the Twins are the second best, actually. So we'll see.
Yeah, that goes. But anyways, so that's all for MLB talk. It took almost an hour to do it, but we're excited. There's sports to talk about, so we're going to talk about it.
Just real quick, my playoffs, the only thing, being that with the new seeding, I have the Twins moving from 3 to 1, so I don't have them playing the Yankees in the first round anymore. So I do have the Twins winning a playoff series, but I still have Dodgers over Oakland in the World Series. And my MVPs, I have Christian Yelich, and I switched my AL one to Aaron Judge. Because he's going to be starting the season healthy now, so we'll see.
All right, well, we'll have to see. So we'll move on to the NBA now. They are hopefully going to have a startup, essentially that the seeding games haven't quite been. So this is essentially the layout of how it's going to happen, or what they want it to look like. From June 30th to July 7th is going to be the in-market training camps. July 7th to 11th, the teams are going to be traveling to Orlando, which everyone knows by now that's where they're going to be playing the games in Orlando. July 9th to the 29th is going to be the training camps. And then July 30th to August 14th will be the seeding games for that. And then each team that made it are going to be playing 8 regular seed games. Once the teams are eliminated, they'll get out of that bubble environment there. So essentially the layout of how they want it is August 15 to 16 is the play-in tournaments. August 17th, the playoffs begin. The 30th, the families and such arrive. August 31st to September 13th is a conference semifinals. September 15th, September 28th, the conference finals. And then September 30th to August 13th would be the NBA finals. So all the teams that were invited, starting in the Western Conference, Lakers, Clippers, Nuggets, Jazz, Thunder, Rockets, Mavericks, Grizzlies, Trailblazers, Pelicans, Kings, Spurs, Suns. And then the Eastern Conference, Bucks, Raptors, Celtics, Heat, Pacers, 76ers, Nets, Magic, and Wizards. So essentially, that is how that is going to turn out there. I believe with how they did deciding what teams to make this bubble environment, was essentially that whoever is currently in the top 8 right now, from the games that they played before, and then any team, I believe, within like 4 games of that 8th seed also made it. So that's why basically dang near the entire Western Conference, minus, a couple teams, didn't make it. The Timberwolves being one of them. And only the one team from the Eastern Conference, being the Washington Wizards, the only team to make it there. Now, the standings, the Wizards I don't believe, are within the 4 games, but they pretty much if we're going to invite every single dang near Western Conference team, might as well give an Eastern Conference team a chance.
Which I totally understand.
Which I understand too. So basically, how I read it is that they're going to be playing 8 games. That'll decide kind of the seeding of how that goes, see if any teams make it in there. But yeah, so how do you feel about this? Do you like the format that they're kind of rolling with this? Is there anything else you'd suggest with it?
I mean, I really don't know what else you do, so yeah, I'm a fan. Unfortunately, I think it's unlikely the Lakers would have overtaken the number 1 record in basketball if everything had continued on, but I think they had a decent chance because Giannis was injured and the Lakers had recently moved to only like two games different in the loss column than the Bucks. And come NBA Finals time, it's you want to be home court. Whereas now with only 8 games left, I don't think anybody's going to catch the Bucks. But I don't think the playoff teams are going to change much. There's not a lot of games. They're playing, 10 games? I mean, that's not a lot of games to make much ground. I mean, you're going to have to win almost all of those if you're outside of the playoffs looking in. But like I said, there's not really much they can do, especially with the limited amount of time they have. So I don't mind it. And playoffs should essentially be about the same. Just, you're not playing with fans or anything like that. That's the only difference. But I guess the one thing, let's just assume all these sports that will be continuing go on without any delays, and then let's just assume college football and NFL start at the same time as normal. I mean, at this point, I think for all that happens, it's unlikely, unfortunately, but let's just hope and assume. Imagine how good the end of September and the beginning of October will be. That will be the only benefit to this sports hiatus we've had. Now, October is always good. October is probably my favorite month because you have so much for sports. You have, the sports equinoxes. But this year, it could potentially be end of September, is the end of the baseball regular season, maybe NHL finals, maybe NBA finals, and the start of NFL season in about week 3 or 4 of college football. I mean, just don't even get off your couch. Just keep churning the station to all the different sports that are on. It will be glorious. And I hope it happens, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will have to see that. That is a great point. That hopefully is the only benefit to that, is that we are able to experience all of the teams in their playoff atmosphere after this. Now, I will touch on something. I don't think there really is such a thing as home court advantage now, especially in the NBA. Number one, you're playing all your games in Orlando. Number two, fans aren't going to be there. And that's a huge – I mean, we all know in sports how huge home court advantage is.
Yeah, I guess I should have thought of that.
No, it's all good.
I guess seating really doesn't matter. You just got to get in.
Just make it at this point. Well, who knows? Maybe the Washington Wizards will make a run.
Maybe the home team will get a good locker room. The visiting team will get kind of a trashier locker room. Maybe that's how they do it.
Maybe that's the home court advantage.
Home team gets 2 full Gatorade coolers. The away team only gets 1.
Funny. So that is that. We'll move on to the NHL now.
Oh, by the way, speaking about fans, I've seen the Giants are having this thing. You can submit photos and then you can be like a cardboard cutout that they're gonna put in the seats. I hope everybody does that. It might sound stupid, but honestly, even though it's not real people, it'll probably give at least the appearance of maybe fans, which might actually, make a difference. And even if it doesn't, I think it would look cool. And it would be cool to say, hey, look, there's a cardboard cutout of me in center field. So I love that idea.
That's like in the Korean baseball league, how they have all the stuffed animals right there. Yeah.
That was really cool.
That was cool.
So I hope more teams do that. That would be really fun.
So we'll move on to the NHL now. We'll start with their potential startup. So there's not been a confirmed date. Everyone's kind of guessing it'll kind of be around that end of July period of when that'll start up again for the NHL, but there's no set in stone date like NBA and MLB is currently. So essentially how they're doing it is that they're going to have the 24 teams in 2 hub cities that'll compete in seeding round robins, qualifying round, and conference-based Stanley Cup playoffs. So the 2 hub cities, essentially each conference will have their own hub city. So, essentially, for example, the Western Conference, their hub city could be, in Dallas, Texas. And then the Eastern Conference, their hub city could be in Toronto. It's something like that, essentially, is how that would work. So
there was talk that Minnesota would be one, but I'm not sure.
Well, Minneapolis, St. Paul is one of the ones that is on the list. I'm not sure if that's going to happen now, but
yeah,
who knows? So essentially, the competitive format is as follows for this. Each conference teams are seeded by point percentage. So the round robin, the top 4 teams in each conference will play for the first round seeding. And then the qualifying round, the remaining 8 teams play a best of 5 series to advance to the first round. And then, best of 7 series for that. So essentially, the teams that will be competing in the Eastern Conference for that number 1 seed will be the Boston Bruins, Tampa Bay Lightning, Washington Capitals, Philadelphia Flyers. So depending on how that rolls out there, that's going to be that seeding. And then the best of 5 qualifying round will be Pittsburgh versus Montreal, Hurricanes versus the Rangers, Islanders versus the Panthers, Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Blue Jackets. And then in the Western Conference, the teams competing for those top seeds are going to be the St. Louis Blues, Colorado Avalanche, Vegas Golden Knights, and Dallas Stars. And then the best of 5 qualifying round for that will be the Edmonton Oilers versus the Blackhawks, Predators versus the Coyotes, Canucks versus the Wild, and Flames versus the Winnipeg Jets. So essentially, that is how that layout is going to go for that. But yeah, so how do you like that layout? Are you a fan of the kind of the top 4 teams competing for those top spots, or would you just kind of rather have it like the NBA, where you have the 8 teams and they're all competing equally for any position?
I'd probably prefer the NBA route over this one. But if you are going to just essentially start off with the playoffs, which essentially that's kind of what they're doing, almost. You're starting off right away with a series. If you are going to take that route, then I'm glad they made it different for the top 4 teams because they deserve to be up there. They don't deserve to have to be playing, these long series just for better seeding. So right. I don't mind it. I'd say I probably prefer the NBA's route a little more. But at the same time, 8 games, 10 games, that's so little games to make up ground anyways. In hockey, a little different because it's 2 points a win rather than just 1 win is 1 win. But considering there's not much round to even make much time to even make up ground, this whole series thing to get into the playoffs instead is kind of cool. I don't mind that either. So I don't know. I'd probably lean more the NBA route, the way they're doing it, but I don't mind either way. And it's kind of cool that they're both different, too.
Right. I kind of like the NHL format a little bit more just because if you're a top 4 seed, you're playing for good seeding. You're playing for that. Versus the NBA, Lakers, Clippers, well, they're going to be one of the top seeds, so who's to say that they won't try as hard? Now, I don't think that's the case. But I think in the NHL, there's a little more kick to want to win those games because there's more on the line versus on the NBA side of things. But yeah, so that's what I think about that. And then the Hall of Fame, NHL came out with their Hall of Fame announcement. So the people that made it, and I'll just go through the players and some accomplishments and such for that. Jerome McGinley made it. He played a lot of games. 1,200 out of his 1,500 games he played with the Calgary Flames. Played with the Avalanche for a little bit too. Boston Bruins as well. Scored 625 goals, 1,300 points. Won 2 Rocky Richard trophies. King Clancy, Art Ross, Ted Lindsay, and was a 6-time All-Star. He had 2 50-goal seasons and passed the 40-goal mark 40 times. He won 2 Memorial Cups as well with the WHL teams, the Kamloops Blazers. And then he represented Canada at multiple levels on the international stage, won 2 World Junior Championships, 1 World Championship, a World Cup of Hockey, 2 Olympic gold medals, and he was the one that set up, if we all remember, Sidney Crosby's goal that he had in overtime during the 2010 Winter Olympics that beat USA in the finals for that. So without a doubt, no shock there.
That's some hardware.
Solid player, that's for sure.
1,300 career points too.
Yeah. Marian Hossa again joins as another first ballot Hall of Famer. He won 3 cups on those loaded Blackhawks teams.
Yeah, and those teams are so loaded, but you can't talk about those Blackhawks without thinking of Marian Hossa. I mean, right?
Right. So he had great playoff production. He had 149 points in 205 games, and his regular season accomplishments, 525 career goals, 1,134 career points. He represented Slovakia at the World Championships 8 times, Olympic Games 4 times, and playing 2 World Cups of hockey. One for his home country, and the other to Team Europe. And he's won the 3 Stanley Cups, also won a Memorial Cup as well too. But one of the best two-way stars that we've seen currently, that not of all time, but one of the better two-way stars that we've seen, for sure as well too. And then the other people that we had, Kim St. Pierre, who was a really solid international player for hockey. 3 Olympic, 5 from the World Championships, and she won 1 from Nations Cup. She was a goaltender, played 83 times for Team Canada, having them win 64 times and 29 shutouts. 29. Best goalie honors.
That's like every 3rd game.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician, but I'll take your word for it. And then Doug Wilson also made it. He scored 237 goals, 827 points as a defenseman, won the Norris Trophy in 82. Right now, he currently is the Sharks GM, was an 8-time All-Star, won the Canada Cup gold, won that. He played in a really, really strong era of players. Ray Bork, Paul Coffey, a couple guys to be mentioned there. And he finished his career in the top 20 in points by a defenseman and top 10 in points per game. So that was that. Kevin Lowe also made it.
Now, how much do you know about Kevin Lowe? Because, he had 347 assists, but only 84 goals. I feel like he made it just because he won the Cup 6 times. But
I think that definitely is huge. He was a great builder too. You know, he was probably not the first person to saying he would be in the Hall of Fame, but I think he just had great leadership is kind of what I was reading for that. There's always going to be those guys that may be on the fence for that. And then, but we'll have to see. But so that is the NHL class. So congratulations to those, all those folks for getting in there. Certainly a cool accomplishment to add on the life radar there for sure. So congrats to all those guys and lady as well too. So we will move on to the NFL, our final sport here. We're going to start it. Only have a couple things to talk about for that, but fairly big things. Jamal Adams being the first one. He had requested a trade from the New York Jets. Not happy with them. He hasn't really gotten an extension from them. This, that, and the other. Essentially, it just really has not worked out well with them. So the teams that he wants to get traded to would be the Ravens, Cowboys, Texans, Chiefs, Eagles, 49ers, Seahawks. So first off, Adam Gase, once again showing why he's such a great head coach. He can't keep good players around. But what do you think about this? Out of those teams that I mentioned, what team do you think is the most likely to try and get something done for him?
List them off again.
Yep. So Ravens, Cowboys, Texans, Chiefs, Eagles, 49ers, Seahawks.
The Eagles seem to be moving around pieces all the time. So I'd probably lean them, especially because of all those teams, they could probably use it the most.
Mm.
But I could see the Ravens wanting to get even better in doing it, but I don't know. I'd say the Eagles are probably the most likely. Eagles, maybe Dallas. But really what I think about this, I just think the whole thing's kind of pathetic. We heard about Jamal Adams supposedly wanting to be traded last season, and Jamal Adams vehemently denied it, said, no, I never said that. I don't want to be traded, blah, blah, blah. And now here we're hearing it again, Jamal Adams saying, yeah, I want out. It's like, okay. So you probably clearly wanted out last year and were denying it. And now you do want out, and it's just a mess. It's like, I don't know. I don't get it. But I will say, Jamal Adams has played, 3 seasons only? I already think he's the best safety in football. The dude is an absolute stud. I am as high on Jamal Adams as about anybody you're going to find. That dude is unbelievably good. So whoever gets him, if he is traded, they should be very, very, very happy.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think a lot of times secondaries kind of get overlooked because typically you want to build up that defensive line that can help out your secondary. But nonetheless, if you have a trash front line, then that makes the secondary that much more special. If they're good. Mm-hmm. I think I'm just going to say the 49ers just because I've heard that that's kind of been the team that's been towards the top, that's been kind of maybe trying to get him the most. And we all know they're not afraid to wheel and deal draft picks. They're not afraid to trade players. We'll have to see how that works. But I could see him fitting well there. But I mean, this guy dang near probably is the top safety in the game. I'd have to look at a list of players, but I'm not sure I would still change my mind from that. He was not on a very good team. I just think Adam Gase has had opportunities to keep good players, kept getting rid of them. The one that I will not forgive him for, still to this day, my boy Jarvis Landry. He wanted to stay in Miami. He says he wanted to. But they didn't want to pay him the big money for a wide receiver, even though we all know he was the heart and soul of our team. And then we traded him for like a 4th and like a 7th round pick. We didn't even get it. We got nothing for him. So I'm still ticked about that. We obviously had the whole debacle with Le'Veon Bell last season if he would get traded. And
all
now
right, so who would you rather have coaching your team, Adam Gase or Bill O'Brien?
Oh, God. Well, I had Adam Gase. I will say I think he had good players. They weren't always healthy. That's not really his fault, but oh, man. Oh, God. That is a tough one. Because I do not like either of those. You guys know how much I do not like
That's
Bill O'Brien.
You'll have one as the head coach, one as the OC, and you'll be happy.
Let's just say I'd probably rather have Adam Gase just because we did make the playoffs with him. He brought us through a playoff one time, so maybe I'll do that. I'd just be afraid for Bill O'Brien, that we draft Tua, and then in 2 seasons he trades him for a 7th round and cash consideration, something stupid like that. Adam Gase, because they're both equally dumb when it comes to their trades. At least I would say Adam Gase is a little bit better than Bill O'Brien. But that's
cash considerations. That's good. That's clever.
Oh,
God.
But nonetheless, hopefully Jamal Adams, I'd be happy, get him out of the East there. Get him to another team that the Dolphins don't have to play him twice a year because he's a tough guy to go against. And in the other news in the NFL, Dak Prescott signed a contract, and no, it was not a long-term one. It was a one-year deal, $31.4 million. So let me ask you this, Nick. Whose side are you more on now? Do you think that Dak Prescott is worth as much money as he wants for, let's say, a 4 or 5 year deal? Or if you're Dallas, are you going to hold out and say, you know what, if he doesn't want to sign, let's try and get someone else?
I sided with the Cowboys. Now, one, that doesn't mean I don't think they should re-sign Prescott. Quarterbacks are so important. It is the most important position in the major four professional sports. I don't care what anybody says. So you need one. That's why they're overpaid. People get all upset about how these guys are overpaid. Yes, you're overpaying them. But if you don't overpay them, then you're not going to have anybody. But with that being said, I'm glad they didn't give in because they shouldn't. At least not yet. Not until they actually have to. And because they held out, they ended up getting him for $31.5 million, which is a lot of money. But for the time being, it's not anywhere near what he wanted. You know, couldn't he have signed a deal for more than that and he declined it? And now he's settling with $31.5. Now, trust me, I'm a Prescott guy. Like, I don't think he's this great quarterback, but I think I'm higher on Dak Prescott than most people are. You know, the guy showed he can win games. He's not like this system quarterback. You know, he can air it out. He's a good quarterback, but he's not worth what he's asking. I mean, this dude's insane right now. He thinks he's like Tom Brady or something, like Tom Brady at age 27 or something like that. I don't know what he thinks of himself, but no, I would sign Morse with the Cowboys. If it were sign Prescott for $37 million or don't have anybody, I'd honestly probably say, you know what, it sucks, but you better sign him. But considering they didn't really have to do that yet because, you know, he had a year left, correct? I mean,
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's about an extension. So I'm totally fine with them holding out. I would be more so on their side than Dak.
I tend to agree with you. I don't think Dak is worth that much money, but in the National Football League, there's a reason why the quarterbacks are making a lot of money. Number one, you know, that everyone was making the same fuss when Matthew Stafford got that huge contract, made him the highest paid player ever. Well, is Matthew Stafford the best player ever to deserve that money? No, absolutely not. But if Matthew Stafford is not playing for Detroit, how much worse is Detroit? Probably a lot. So that's the way you got to look at it. There's a reason quarterbacks don't switch teams too often. It's because teams are so intent on wanting to keep them there because they know if so-and-so person leaves, they're probably not going to be as good. Now, there are certain cases of that where that's not the case. You know, I don't think the Chicago Bears are necessarily pleased with Mitchell Trubisky. If he were to leave, I think, you know, they'd be okay with paying someone else a big amount of money. And, you know, other teams like that. But we'll have to see how this all turns out if they give him a long extension.
You know, there were so many people upset how Cousins was getting so much money at the time. Well, there's like 5 or 6 quarterbacks who make more than him now, just in a 2-year span. It's just going to keep going up. It's just that's the way it is. And yes, Prescott, do you want to pay him $35 million? Is he worth that? No. But if you don't pay him, you know, and it's what, 31.5 or whatever that he's getting, but you know, he was asking for, I think, darn near 40 at one point. It's like, let's just say 35. Is he worth that? No. Do you want to pay him that? No. But if you don't pay him $35 million, and that's going to make it harder for you to win because you're paying him so much money. You know, it's going to be harder to get guys elsewhere. But if you don't pay him that 35, you want to pay somebody who's far worse?
Right.
12? No. Yeah, you'd be saving a lot of money. But if you have a $12 million quarterback, you're probably not going anywhere because it's almost impossible to find a $12 million quarterback that you're going to win with. It's just the way it is. It's that important of a position. And there's 32 NFL teams. There's not 32 quarterbacks that you're going to win a Super Bowl with. There just isn't. There just isn't. It's the way it is.
Now, if Dak Prescott were to be playing another position like a, you know, defensive position, potentially, essentially any other position besides quarterback, then leave. Go ahead, leave.
Yes,
we'll
it's like
replace you.
It's like Dalvin Cook with the Vikings. Now, it pains me to say, I think the Vikings are going to give in and sign him, but I hope they don't. There is a 0% chance, 0% chance that I would sign Dalvin Cook for the money he's asking for. 0.000. There is not a chance on earth I would give him that much money. Dalvin Cook is very good.
Yeah.
But he's not worth that money. I don't care if you're Christian McCaffrey, if you're Barry Sanders, if you're Walter Payton, if you're Jim freaking Brown. I'm not giving you that money. You're a running back 2020 in the NFL. You're not that valuable. It's the way it is. The Chiefs just won the Super Bowl with Damian Williams. The Patriots won it with James White.
Don't diss my boy
Lewis.
Damian Williams, Nick. Don't diss on my boy Damian Williams. He should have won that Super Bowl MVP, and you know it.
He should have. But that's my point. Damian Williams isn't even a top 10 running back. And he should have been Super Bowl MVP because it's not about how good your running back is. It's about how good the system around them is. Any good football team can make a good running back. Because it's not that hard. You need a good offensive line, a good quarterback, and good play calling. It's just the way, the best running backs in football either make it to the playoffs and lose right away or don't even make it to the playoffs. Barkley didn't make it. Elliott didn't make it. Cook did win one game, but Cook and Kamara played each other. One of them had to make it. Henry was the only exception because he just balled out for 2 games, and then as soon as he got somewhat stopped, they lost. Because running backs aren't that important. And that's just the one gripe I had to put in because Dalvin Cook, they better treat that like Melvin Gordon did. Don't pay him, and eventually he's going to realize he's an idiot, and he has to sign, and come week 6, he's going to sign. He's going to come and report. And then it's going to be like, oh, sucks for you. Now you're playing. That's how they should treat it. It just ticks me off, these running backs. I just think they're all idiots. And I guess to the point is, yes, if you're not a quarterback, then quit complaining about money because you know what? You're just not worth it most of the time.
I will say for the most part, running backs are pretty expendable outside. No, I know you did. Outside of a Christian McCaffrey.
Outside nobody.
You cannot, with a straight face, Nick Duckett, tell me that you would rather have a Todd Gurley in there versus a Christian McCaffrey. You're telling me they're going to give you the same amount of production and you're going to be okay with that? I get it. Your quarterback.
No, I'm not telling you that.
And that other offensive weapons.
Todd Gurley for way less money.
And that, okay, but is he going to give you the production that a Christian McCaffrey guy is?
No, Christian McCaffrey's amazing. He's the best running back in football. He just signed for what, $18 million a year or something like that?
Something.
And you may say maybe that's worth it, right? But no, it's not. Now, I don't blame them for doing it because if they don't sign McCaffrey, they're going to be darn near the worst team in football and their fans are going to hate him and they're just going to be upset. So you're just making the fans happy at this point. But it don't matter if you pay him $2 million or $18 million next year. The Panthers ain't going anywhere. And now that you paid him $18 million, you definitely ain't going anywhere for the next 4 years because you can't do anything else around him. And when he doesn't have an offensive line or he doesn't have any pass threat at all on his team and they know he's getting the ball, good luck getting your 2,200 scrimmage yards or whatever you got because it ain't happening. The Panthers are screwed now that McCaffrey's making $18 million.
But as any other running back, you toss him into let's say you toss some Joe Blow into the same spot that Christian McCaffrey is in. Are they going to be any better with said other player versus if they have Christian McCaffrey? Heck no.
No, they're not because
absolutely
McCaffrey's
not.
Better. But the rest of the team around them will be because you won't have to pay that Joe Blow or whatever you call them nearly as much money. If you pay Lucas Dorton $1 million to be a running back, you're going to have much better people elsewhere. When you're paying Christian McCaffrey $18 million, you ain't going to have anywhere else elsewhere. And running backs don't win you football games. It's your
they sure help.
Your O-line and your D-line. The best running back to win a Super Bowl in the last 8 years is Marshawn Lynch. And yes, he's good, but he ain't that's the best running back to win a Super Bowl in the last decade, darn near. It's just not the way it is.
So then are you suggesting the Panthers get rid of Christian McCaffrey? If like you said, if the running back position is that expendable to where they can get rid of Christian McCaffrey.
They'd be better off trading him for
Oh,
package than keeping him.
You're
They're not going to win with him. The only reason I'm somewhat fine with them signing it is because, like I said, if they didn't, the fans would be pissed off and they'd win like 2 games. But by signing him now, you're just going to win 5 instead of 2. Who the hell cares? Not me. I'd rather win 2 than 5.
So you would rather not have Christian McCaffrey on your team, is what you are telling me. Oh my gracious, that is you guys.
Who's the best?
Here's some debate.
Running back in football? Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Missed the playoffs. Who's the second best?
I don't know. Alvin Kamara, Derrick Henry, probably.
All right, they want a total. They want a combined total of 2. Delvin Cook won 1. Ezekiel Elliott 0.
But they made it to the playoffs.
0.
But they made it to the playoffs.
Well, yeah, they didn't. There was two running backs in the top 10 in football who won a playoff game. 2.
Look at how much better the Dallas Cowboys were when Ezekiel Elliott was playing versus that time that he was suspended and was not playing. They were not. They no. Well, obviously
Did they
not.
win a playoff game?
But that doesn't mean that they're any worse.
There's a difference between 5 wins and 8 wins, 2 wins and 5 wins, 9 wins and 1 playoff win. I don't care if it ain't a Super Bowl. And you ain't winning a Super Bowl paying your running back that much money. The Chiefs have nobodies at running backs. Jamie Williams is fine. He's somewhat of a somebody. And they won it because they have Mahomes and a good O-line. The Patriots won it because they have Brady, a good defense, a good O-line, and a good system. The
great
Seahawks
system.
are maybe the exception, but they still won it because their defense, not necessarily because of Marshawn Lynch. You do not win Super Bowls because of running backs in today's football. You just don't. It is the easiest replaceable position in professional sports.
Stop it.
It is.
I will agree with you. I will agree with you to an extent. Yes. Most running backs are expendable. You can replace most running backs and you would probably be fine. But the top tier running backs, if you were to pick, the top 4 running backs, McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, just off the top of my head. Top 4 right there, whatever particular order, I don't really care. You cannot tell me that you would rather look at Barry Sanders.
He never made a playoff game.
And I get that. But he is the only reason why those Detroit Lions teams were anything relevant is because he had a booty offensive line, and he was still one of the best running backs ever played, and he didn't even play his whole potential.
The only reason Carolina was any good. But what's it matter if you're not going to go all the way, or even to the playoffs for that matter? I'd rather you win me 2 games than 5, because then you're getting a really solid player the next round.
You would rather win less games than have a guy who's going to elevate you. And yeah, you'll probably have to pay him more money.
If you're not going to make the playoffs, I'd rather have you win me 2 games than 5.
That's interesting, folks. Nick Duckett would rather lose the most amount of games possible than to pay someone. Makes sense to me, folks.
There's not a single running back in football I'd pay $16.5 million or whatever McCaffrey's getting. I'd rather pay.
Okay.
I'd rather pay Damian Williams $5 million or $4 million than McCaffrey's $16.5. If McCaffrey's getting 11 or 12 maybe, then fine, but not 16.5 because you ain't going anywhere. If the Chiefs had McCaffrey, you know how good they'd be. But if they had him at 18 million, they'd have so much less on their team. I don't know if they'd even win a Super Bowl. When you have Mahomes, it's a little different, but running backs are expendable.
Okay, so I want to look something up here real quick, just so I can. Okay, so the Panthers. Okay, so last season the Panthers finished 5-11. Okay, year before that 7-9, 11-5, whatever. So 5-11 last season. Okay. So let's just say, McCaffrey is still there, okay? Let's say, the Panthers sign, who would be, in your opinion, is like a middle-of-the-road running back, or a middle-of-the-road quarterback, in your opinion? because I would say like a Ryan Tannehill is kind of middle of the pack. I would say I think he's better than people would think he is.
Tannehill, even potentially Cousins.
Okay, so let's say you toss Kirk Cousins into the Carolina Panthers. Okay, boom, that's already an upgrade to what they have at quarterback right now. Will Greer and Kyle Allen and Bridgewater. Okay, and we'll have to see how he does. I don't know where I'd put him in that ranking, but Cousins, let's say they toss him in there right now. Okay, now what could be deciding from a playoff spot versus not a playoff spot could be the weapons that he has around him. Okay, so now let's look at the weapons that he has around him. What are some of his wide receivers that he has right now, or that the Panthers have right now? Let me see. DJ Moore, right?
No, but DJ Moore is good. That's about it.
Okay, let me see here. Panthers.
Jerry is right.
Carolina Panthers depth chart here. Okay, so
trash.
Okay, so wide receiver right now, DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel is kind of their top three.
Oh yeah, Curtis Samuel, yeah.
Robbie Anderson, he was pretty solid for the Jets as well too. Okay, so let's say instead of Kyle Allen, because I'm not going to say Teddy Bridgewater because he hasn't played a full season in a while, so we're not quite sure what he can do. So let's say Kyle Allen because he was their main guy last year.
Right.
So let's say you replace Kirk Cousins, or you replace Kyle Allen with Kirk Cousins. Okay, you're a better team already, right? Already. Yeah. So now let's say you take Christian McCaffrey out of that equation, and you throw in I don't know. A Todd Gurley, okay? A guy who has, quite frankly, sucked the last few years.
Actually, Gurley had almost 1,000 yards last year, and he barely touched the football. He's better than people think.
Okay, well, he's not the same player that he was like the one season when people drafted him number 1 overall.
Well, yeah.
Let's just put it that way. Okay. So now let's say you replace, maybe Todd Gurley isn't a good example. Who's like a...
Damian Williams.
Okay, Damian Williams. Why not? I don't care. Let's say you replace Damian Williams or replace Christian McCaffrey with Damian Williams. Are you telling me that money sacrifice is so important to you that you are confident in saying that, okay, we have a quarterback that could potentially win us games. We have a decent wide receiving core. Okay. But we're going to not have Christian McCaffrey and have Damian Williams. You would be okay with potentially sacrificing a playoff spot and not having Christian McCaffrey versus now you have him, okay, and now you're talking about, I don't know about, winning division because that's a tough division, but you're a strong contender for a wild card spot.
I'd much rather have Cousins and Damian Williams than Christian McCaffrey and Kyle Allen. That's for sure.
That's not the question, though. I'm saying Kirk Cousins, if he goes there tomorrow, and then they're already, whatever. They're already a better team, and you replace McCaffrey with Damian Williams. You're okay because I feel if you have McCaffrey there, you have Kirk Cousins there, middle of the tier quarterback list, maybe a little bit higher on that list. Not an elite wide receiver core, but certainly not a trash one. And you replace Damian Williams with Christian McCaffrey, you would be okay with potentially sacrificing a playoff spot just because you wanted to save some money, is what I'm hearing.
Okay, now I get what you're saying now. Well, it's not that you're saving money. You're using it up. You're saving money on your running back.
Okay, whatever. Sure.
If you sign Williams, you get somebody else. Now, in that situation, I mean, with Cousins, they'd be pretty good, I think. But you're still not going to be – I still highly doubt that team would win a Super Bowl.
Well,
whereas if you could get rid of McCaffrey and then maybe get a really good O-line or a defense with some of that money and then just a middle-of-the-road running back, I think in the long run you'd be better off. So, yeah.
Your goal should be to make the playoffs, win the Super Bowl. Now, I get it. There are some teams that are a lot better off for potentially doing that versus other teams are. But at the beginning of the season, everyone's goal should be, can we make the playoffs? Can we make a Super Bowl? Now, I'm intrigued to see how Teddy Bridgewater does this season. If he plays like maybe what the Panthers think he could play, then okay, maybe he now is playing up to that middle tier starting quarterback list, and having a Christian McCaffrey propels them to the playoffs. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know how Teddy Bridgewater is going to play, but if he plays, kind of how they think they want him to play, the Panthers could potentially be a wild card team. I truly believe that.
All I'm saying is Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in football, and his team won 5 games. Now, yes, the Panthers are pretty bad elsewhere.
Kyle Allen was the quarterback.
Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in football. They won the Super Bowl. Let's see. The second best quarterback, Wilson, made the playoffs. The third best quarterback, probably Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson. They made the playoffs. The best offensive line in football, maybe Dallas. They barely missed the playoffs. Besides that, San Francisco, Baltimore. You could argue Oakland, who missed the playoffs, but for the most part, the best O-lines in football, They make the playoffs. The best quarterbacks in football, they make the playoffs. The best defenses in football, they make the playoffs. The teams that are the best running backs in football, they don't. So there's no reason in paying them.
Do you think Teddy Bridgewater is better than Kyle Allen?
Yeah.
Okay. So Kyle Allen won 5 games last season. We already established that.
Yeah.
How many wins, realistically? I don't want to, don't just say it because, you hate Christian McCaffrey this much.
I don't.
But honestly, truly tell me, with Teddy Bridgewater and the current roster that they have, how many more games are they winning?
I don't know if they win any more, to be honest. I think they're a better team, but I don't know if they were even 5 wins.
You think they're a better team, but you don't think that they win more than 5 games is what you're telling me?
No, because I don't know how they even got the 5 wins last year. They're terrible.
And that's what I'm saying.
Plus, they lost easily.
I think that if Teddy Bridgewater is better than Kyle Allen, and Kyle Allen was able to win 5 games, he was not that good of a quarterback. But Teddy Bridgewater is better. They also added a Robbie Anderson as well, too.
Well, Bridgewater's better, but it's not like he's over the top better. It's not that it's worth it. I think you're saying you've got to Bridgewater
expanded playoffs right? Too.
It's different though. If you don't pay the money, typically not paying your running backs money might give you more room to spend on a quarterback. But they didn't give extra money to a quarterback because Bridgewater's not worth that much. He's not getting paid that much, and he's not going to bring him far. I mean, if you don't pay a running back a lot of money to sign a guy like Cousins out of free agency, like the Vikings did a few years ago, or somebody else, that's going to give you a really good chance of winning. But if you can't even afford that because you're paying, maybe the Panthers don't have a better quarterback and aren't paying one more money because McCaffrey's getting so much money. And now you're not going to go anywhere because Bridgewater, although he's decent, isn't going to be good enough to put you over the top, I don't think.
I have never bought into the owners not having enough money. You're an NFL owner for a reason. You've got plenty of money. Some people are just more stingy with it than others.
Well, yeah. Salary cap, though. They can't go over it.
Well, I get that, but you can still sign pieces to help you out. I mean, for God's sakes, look at the Miami Dolphins this offseason. They paid big money for another corner. They paid big money for another linebacker. They got 2 running backs, paid a decent amount of money for one of them.
If they were paying the running back $18 million, they wouldn't have been able to do that.
Okay, I get that. But I just think that it's silly to me that you would sacrifice a playoff spot to allocate money elsewhere.
What
just because you don't want to pay Christian
McCaffrey. They didn't even make the playoffs.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. With this expanded playoffs, I think teams like the Carolina Panthers, teams like the Panthers have a chance to make the playoffs.
They're absolutely the Panthers are one of the worst teams in football with the best running back in football. You have the best running back in football, and it's got you nowhere. So why?
You won 5 games with Kyle Allen as your quarterback. You bring in Teddy Bridgewater. I think you can add another 3 to that.
We all know
But we all know with the expanded playoffs, those 8-8 teams, those 9-7 teams have a higher chance of making it.
If the Panthers win 8 games this year, I will shave my head bald.
Okay.
Terrible.
You heard it here first, folks.
Best running back in football.
If the Carolina Panthers win 8 games, Nick is going to shave his head bald. I am going to be the biggest Panthers fan this year. I am the biggest Panthers fan this next season. Huge. Dolphins #1, Panthers an extremely close second. Extremely close. I want to see the bald Nick. Hey, can I even shave it for you? Can I shave your head for you if they don't do it? If they win 8 games, okay, thank you. All right, well, that's probably all that we got to talk about, folks. You complain that we don't debate enough. Here's a debate for you. So hopefully you made it this far in the podcast and it was worth it.
We finally debate, and in order to end my debate, I have to sacrifice potentially all my hair.
We'll have to see how that turns out. But anyways, so we're at the end of the show now. Hopefully you stuck around this long. Again, a little bit longer, but we actually had sports stuff to talk about, so that's pretty exciting too. So we'll have to see how that turns out.
Maybe for like Christmas or my birthday, you should just buy me an "I Hate Running Backs" T-shirt.
I might have to. Damn, Christmas gift, Nick Duckett. I know what I'm getting you. Jeez.
I hate running backs. T-shirt.
I hate Christian McCaffrey. That should be what you say.
I don't have anything against McCaffrey. I have against paying him that much money.
But anyways, we're at the end of the show. Like I mentioned, if you want to follow our Twitters, follow us at Lucas_Dorton, capital L, capital D. If you want to follow Nick, at Duckett or Doetkott. And then if you want to follow the podcast, it is at DND_podcast.
Trying to get a look here.
Capital D, capital P for that. Nick's looking like Coco Chris with that afro out there.
I'm trying to get a peek at what bald Nick would look like, but there's just too much hair to cover up. Can't do it.
But anyways, so that's that. Again, folks, thank you for listening. Please subscribe again. We're trying to get better. Please share to your friends, share to your family. If there's anything you'd like us to talk about, certainly let us know. If you want to be on a show, certainly let us know and we can try and make that happen. But as for myself and Nicholas Duckett, until next week, we are out.